host, Bill Borton. My guest, Charley Timmins, deals in one of life's little mysteries. He transforms leaders into the best versions of themselves so they can achieve personal success, have more fun, and gain personal significance as they navigate their careers into their retirement years. Today, Charley is here to offer boomers a different perspective on shaping their careers in midlife, delivering no-nonsense, actionable advice to jumpstart your journey to that elusive best version of you. Welcome, Charley.
Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for being on Live Better Longer.
Thank you.
Charley, conventional wisdom about the term retirement has been changing. Can you give us some perspective on that?
We're not in Kansas anymore, Bill. Retirement really started post-World War II, where the government said to corporations, take care of these women and men that served our country well. We grew up, you and I, at an era where it was expected that after many, many years of employment with one employer, we would then go to the greener pastures of retirement.
And have a thing called a pension.
Exactly. How do you spell that?
I don't remember.
But my father worked for 27 years. He retired, and then he lived for another 27 years. I suggest that he wouldn't have lived as well as he did had he not had his pension and his fantastic health care. Okay? Would that I had that. Would that we all had that. But what's ended up happening is the responsibility is now ours to live better longer. Right? So it's up to us to figure out how we're going to go into those particular years.
So instead of retiring to get away from something, ideally we want to retire to move towards something.
Well, we're going to live longer. I don't know what the actuarial tables say, but we're going to live well into our 80s. I think that's what they say for most males. And what does that mean after we decide we're not going to work anymore?
Well, not only is the life expectancy for a 65-year-old male about age 83, Charley, but that means half as many are going to live longer than that. And so many people will live well into their 90s or even 100.
Well, what are they doing after they retire? That's the question I always ask. For about 20 years, I've been helping men and women who are in the midlife crisis of figuring out what do they want to do next. They've either been separated involuntarily, unexpectedly, or they've worked themselves toward that period where they have the retirement that they had been working for. But what still goes through their mind is, what's next for me? What am I going to do next? Many of them have worked, but never really utilized their talents and their gifts in a way that fulfills them, gives them meaning.
Well, if they were working for somebody else, they didn't have the option.
Well, they had responsibilities to do what the company told them to do for as long as they were there. And many times they have these repressed desires to really contribute in ways other than what the company had in mind. The increase in voluntarism that we've seen over the last 15 or 20 years is an example of that.
So what kinds of things are you hearing from people that come and sit on the other side of your desk?
They have a sense of emptiness. They don't feel fulfilled. There's a gap. They're trying to fill that with work that's meaningful. They don't have a purpose. When I ask them, why are you doing what you're doing? It's a job. I have responsibilities, I have obligations to fulfill. The emphasis isn't really on contributing in other ways that fulfill them and those around them.
So while they're still getting kids through college and hopefully out of the house when they're done with all that, they're really focused on that. And
Absolutely.
I find whether they're talking to you about, the aspects of your life that you help them with, or whether they're talking to me about what I do, they don't really want to focus on themselves until they feel as though all their child rearing duties are out of the way. But then, now what?
Well, retirement for them depends on the choices that they make. They work with people like you to ensure their financial security going into retirement. A lot of time is not spent figuring out, what am I going to do when I'm in retirement? How am I going to utilize the gifts and talents that I have? And that's where I try to help them figure that out, how they can contribute. For example, a fellow named Steve, he worked for 30 years in a company, senior vice president of operations. Then during the recession period that we recently had, the company let him go. It was an economic decision. He searched hard and wide for another position. He was trying to find his old job. Unfortunately, his old job went away, figuratively.
Right.
And he decided that he was going to take advantage of his retirement and his pension, and what he was going to do is go out to a rural area with he and his wife and they're going to ease into retirement. That didn't last very long. You got itchy.
Yeah, you can only play golf for so long.
Or talk about your gallbladder with your friends.
Yeah, the organ recital.
There we go. But we had a conversation, and I suggested that he volunteer in some way, shape, or form. And he did. He found an organization where he could go and work with people who were starting their own businesses, and he could help them benefit from his operational expertise. Well, what evolved was he eventually was so good at what he did that they grew the business around him, and now he is leading this organization. It's almost accidental, but when you are fulfilling a purpose to help other people become the best versions of themselves, wonderful things begin to happen.
Well, it brings up something you and I are both very passionate about, and that's the go-giver.
Absolutely.
You know, when you're helping other people figure out what they want and then get more of it, it increases the benefits to you.
Almost 100%, Bill. Everybody that I meet and talk to has that sense that when they are giving, when they're involved in helping other people do well, when they help add value to other people's lives, it gives them a sense of meaning and fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people aren't thinking about that before they hit that period where they get to retirement. I'm helping to rethink the whole idea with my clients of retirement. We have a period where we're working. Traditionally, what we would do is work until we're retired and enter retirement. I think they tell us that when we retire that way, you die sooner. So how can we live longer so we can have fun? I tell people there's a period between retirement and our work life called pre-retirement, where we're getting ready for retirement, where we're winding down a little bit. This is where the gifts and talents that people have can be utilized differently. Instead of working 5 days a week for 60 hours, they could work 3 days a week for 24 hours and get a sense of fulfillment, make some additional money so they can have fun, do the things they want to do, but get a sense of commitment and community that has been lacking to them before.
Look forward to talking more about that after we come back from a word from our sponsors. I'm Bill Borton. We'll be back with more Live Better Longer.
RVN TV is a platform for people of any industry to share their story. Over 285,000 viewers are tuning in to RVN TV shows monthly. We guarantee a great experience that you'll be sharing with everyone you know while increasing your personal and company's brand awareness. But what is your brand? According to Forbes, it's a combination of your logo, your product, your design and feel, and your personality. Did you know that aside from being a guest, we offer even more opportunity to boost your brand? Adding your company logo and website on screen during your interview will allow viewers to recognize your brand instantly. Incorporating images and video clips is another great way to showcase your product during your live segment. Let viewers see how good you really are. And most importantly, there's you and your interview. For less than the cost of a newspaper, direct mail, or a magazine ad, you can leave our studio and within 48 hours have a permanent digital copy of your live segment to link to your social media, embed into your company website, or use in email marketing. Investing in your brand is so very important, and we can't wait to have you as a guest.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton, here with Charley Timmins from PMA. So Charley, when somebody's referred to you and they decide to come sit down and have a conversation, what does that look like? What can they expect?
Well, Bill, everybody have a story. You have a story, I have a story. And we need to understand what that story is so we can share it with other people so that we can end up using our talents in the service of other people. So what really happens is we take a deep dive. We try to understand what is their purpose, what do they want to do, what are their values, what are their strengths, how they can contribute to other people or other organizations, so that they end up on a path where they're a lot more engaged. 70% of the people who are currently working say they wish they were going to another job in the next day or two. They don't want to continue doing what they're doing, but they don't have a path forward. So they're stuck, or they feel trapped. The idea is to show them the hope that exists within them to be able to get to where they need to go.
Well, fear can be a very powerful motivator, and if somebody is shown the door from their employer after many years, thinking proactively about the future and their possibilities probably isn't going to be the natural, inclination. They're going to be saying, how do I get another job?
Bill, it happened to me. One of the major inflection points in my life was being shown the door for the first time in my life and feeling a sense of loss, but also feeling lack of value, that I didn't have anything to contribute. And that was a slippery slope for me for a long time, until I finally realized that, well, the way it happened, I was on an airplane. I was coming back from Chicago after a failed interview. And the flight attendant was ready to do his normal routine about preparation for taking off. I had my Walkman on, that's how long ago it was. Joni Mitchell was singing. I looked at life from both sides now. I listened to the attendant, and he said something that changed things for me. He said, first, you have to put the mask on yourself before you can help those around you. At that moment, it made sense. I had to take care of myself and figure myself out, because again, many times we're playing out somebody else's plan for us, whether it's our parents, our spouse, or our employer, and we're not using our gifts in the proper way.
Seems like most of us go through life that way.
I think it's programmed. It's almost a default mechanism that we inherit the minute we go into the workforce.
So I have had the benefit of sitting across the desk from you, Charlie, and you've been of great help to me in my business.
Thank you, Bill.
But for those people who haven't yet had the pleasure of doing that, what types of tools and things do you work with people with in order to help them to discover themselves?
Bill, I believe that the answer's inside. They just have not been asked the right questions. So I don't use any psychology. It's really going back and taking a look at their life, the decisions they made along the way, the kinds of experiences that they've accumulated, where they really add value, where did they have fun, where didn't they have fun, where was the best boss they had. Really going through that and doing a deep dive, an internal journey, if you will, to try to figure out what are the through lines, the themes that exist in their life, so that they can look forward and carry those themes forward so they can add more value. People are concerned that they may be too old. Nobody's going to hire them because of their age. I hear that all the time. But as long as you can add value, make money, move forward, build better teams, build a company's brand, companies are going to be willing to listen to you. If we don't have our story together, it's very hard for them to visualize us working for them to help them do what they need done.
Large corporations may be concerned about the age of what I call your skin bag that's carrying you around. But smaller companies, entrepreneurial organizations, startups, nonprofits, they don't care so much about your chronological age. They concern more about the gifts that you have to give, your passion, your energy, and how you can help. But if you don't know what those things are,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. We have, once we hit midlife and beyond, we have wisdom. Our experience can't be taught. Yet organizations need that wisdom in their organizations to help them grow. We have an entire group of people coming up, millennials. I think they make up more than 50% of the workforce right now. They need people to help them grow. They need mentors to help them fill in the managerial positions and leadership positions in the future. Part of what we all can do is think about how we can contribute in that way so that companies attract the right talent, develop them and keep them, so the asset value of the organization goes up and the asset value of the people that are in that company go up.
One of the other things that I've become aware of is that a lot of folks who may feel they are too old, or where potential employers may feel they're too old, they're able to turn what they've learned and their wisdom and their experience into some type of a consulting role, where they can form their own LLC and then help other companies as a outsourced individual.
When I left a major corporation, the one from which I was fired, they had invested almost $200,000 of training in me to help me develop talents and skills that I put to use for them, and now I could put to use for others. Most of the people in the workforce have gone through that. They have IP, intellectual property, that is of value to other people. Most companies today don't want to have full-time employees if they can avoid it. So this whole sea of consultants is emerging, or coaches are emerging, to offer their wisdom, their knowledge, and their experience to other organizations to help boost their revenues, to boost productivity, and really attract better people and keep better people.
That increasing sea of people out there that could potentially be hired to help on an outsourced basis, though, is both a blessing and a curse, because the more people there are, the more me too everybody seems to become. So that's when you got to be really clear about your gifts and your message, or your why, as Simon Sinek calls it, so that you can convey that message clearly, succinctly, quickly to busy people who may not have a very long attention span.
Bill, I think you're repeating the work that we did together to help you understand that you're on this planet to help people live better longer. And I think everybody has that potential within themselves. They want to find out, how can I make a difference? And the journey that we take together gets them to arrive at that particular point. Then it's to build an action plan to try to get them there, to convince strangers, to give them the opportunity to serve the way they really want to serve.
So I found working with you to be very rewarding for me. I had a lot of aha moments, or what somebody once referred to as a blinding glimpse of the obvious. And I know I have sent a lot of other folks your way to help find their why.
For which I am most appreciated.
So, and I will continue to do so.
Thank you.
So I would like to take another break for a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Charley more about how he's worked with people and why. Thank you.
Seniors want peace of mind and a free prescription discount card? Keep listening. Are you age 85 or younger? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from Final Expense Direct Insurance Services. The average funeral now costs over $7,000, and the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. Our senior plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Get your free information about our senior plans. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone. Plus, call right now and you'll receive a free prescription discount card.
Call 855-223-7661. That's 855-223-7661. 855-223-7661.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Thousands of people contact General Steel each month for a pre-engineered steel building. Business owners who need office, retail, manufacturing, or storage facilities. Leaders who need churches, schools, and gymnasiums. They all want the same thing, the advantages of owning. To build quickly and save money. Quality, backed by our 50-year structural warranty. And they all want to work with a name they know, General Steel. Call us today for the building you need and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction.
Welcome back to Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton, here with my guest, Charley Timmins. So Charley, some of my viewers may want to have the opportunity to experience talking with you. So what does that look like? How does that work?
It starts with a conversation, Bill. Just as you and I had an initial conversation where we sit down, I try to listen to your story, understand what your wants, desires, and needs may be at this stage of your career. And what usually will emerge is a fairly good picture of where you may be able to take yourself. There'll be more clarity, there'll be a better sense of focus and direction, and if we can accomplish that in one sit down, I think we're well on our way to getting you to where you need to be to serve the people that you need to serve. So I'm very happy to do that for any of your viewers.
Wonderful, Charley. Now, I know that you've had a couple of experiences that I'm aware of where that initial conversation, for whatever reason, didn't go very well. And so you're never afraid to let the other person know that you don't think that you guys are a right fit. Is that correct?
I spend a lot of time with people before I agree to work with them. They have to be ready for it. They have to have the right mindset to be able to do the work necessary to come out the other side feeling that they have a sense of purpose, they have a sense of direction. Usually when we start, that's not there. We need to find that and understand what that's going to look like moving forward for them and for the people that they want to serve.
And I don't want to scare anybody off in advance, but also a willingness to be vulnerable and to allow you in is something else that I think would be essential if someone were to really truly benefit from that conversation with you?
If you want people to be your champions and be your advocates, they have to know the real you. And many times we're taught in the business world to wear a mask, to behave in a manner that the company wants us to behave, and we're really not our true self. So it's necessary to understand what is it that we need to take to the world to get the world that we want to work in, we want to serve, to respond to us, because we're taking strangers and we're turning them into advocates. So very important to understand who we really, really are. The worst thing possible is to get somebody you know to meet with a third party. The third party gets hired by them, and all of a sudden they show up at work, they're somebody different. That ruins a number of relationships, and that's not a good thing. We need to build a strong army of advocates and relationships that matter moving forward into the second half of our career. We all hit a halftime experience. We get great success. Most of your reviewers have met with financial success. You're trying to ensure that. But the other thing they're asking is this all there is? What else can I do? And that's something that really, really drives me. Imagine all that unleashed potential that's been sitting inside the workforce, that's now released, what that can do for our society, what that can do for individuals, what that can do for organizations.
A lot of good.
That motivates.
A lot of good can come from that.
Absolutely.
So at the beginning of the show, Charlie, we talked about traditional retirement and what it used to be like, and we agreed that it just isn't that way anymore. What happened, and when did it happen?
Well, I think shareholder value became the dominant cry in corporate America. It became a quarter-to-quarter business. The people that are in business are less valued by corporations than they once were. Remember, the people coming out of World War II, it was almost mandated they had to take care. The companies had to take care of these people because of the sacrifices that they made. Somewhere in the early 90s, that began to change. In '78, a law was enacted that basically said you're not going to be forced to retire at age 70, so you could continue working. So people had to figure out what do they want to continue to do, especially if they did not have the reserves to take them into retirement. So they need to continue to work. How are they going to apply those skills to get the kind of income, to get the kind of ongoing lifestyle that they really need? That's happened. So 401ks, all that whole market came in. And people have to be able to manage whatever resources they have better in order to live better longer.
Now, part of my story, again, is to not just making sure you've accumulated enough, but to figure out a plan so that that money you've accumulated, along with Social Security, and if you are fortunate enough to have a pension, will carry you through a long life. I mean, anybody who's not planning on making it into their 90s these days may be, rudely awakened at some point in time when they don't have enough.
There's a huge industry that believes in what you just said, Bill. However, a lot of people don't spend the same amount of time thinking about their career. They think it ends when they're 65. There are people out there making a contribution well into their 80s. That law I talked about that was enacted in 1978, 2 people changed that law or got that law to be enacted. They were in their 80s at the time. One person had been unemployed for 20 years. Her name was Maggie Kuhn. She was from Philadelphia. She was the person that started the Gray Panthers, and they became a force in American society. A congressman, Claude Pepper, well into his 80s, kind of an insignificant figure in the U.S. Congress, suddenly grabbed hold of this movement and turned it into a cause that resulted in significant change that benefits you and I today. We can continue to work for other people, for ourselves, long into our years. If we feel we're making a contribution, when we get out of bed this morning or doing something that we're passionate about, we want to have that opportunity to do it. And many, many people need to continue to do that to have the kind of retirement that they really need to have.
One of the beautiful things that you and I have going for us, Charlie, is that we don't need to worry about that R word. I'm thinking about slowing down, maybe when I'm 75 or 80, just a little bit, but I'm going strong. And I don't know if our viewers are aware or not. They probably aren't. I'm Medicare eligible now, for God's sakes. I'll be 65 this Friday. And who'd have thought that I ever would have gotten there? More and more people need to think like they're still teenagers, even though their bodies may be Medicare eligible. Because again, life doesn't end when you retire. There's so much more if you know what you want to do, if you know what matters most to you.
Exactly.
Or,
And you have to have a plan.
yeah.
And most people do not have a plan.
So living better longer is about all aspects, not just financial and insurance. It's about taking care of your body, your mind, your spirit, your relationships, your community. These are all aspects of living better longer.
Your show is dedicated to that holistic approach to these later years. It isn't just about money. It's about all other aspects. My area, careers, very important that people get aligned so they wake up in the morning when they're in their 70s. They're looking forward to going out there and doing what they want to do. They may have wanted to do it for a long time in order to make the contribution they feel important. They want to leave a legacy. And having a gold watch, having served 30 years in a company, is not necessarily the legacy that people want.
Indeed.
And help discovering where they can contribute, to me, that makes my day.
So Charlie, people can find you on LinkedIn, correct?
Correct.
And if anybody can't find you any other way, they can certainly reach out to me. At any rate, that's all for this edition of Live Better Longer. I'm your host, Bill Borton. I'll see you again next Tuesday at 11 here on RVN TV. Thank you.